This is 2 out of 3 podcasts so far where we've had somebody driving now.
Well, it is Shitfaced in Hyperspace. Somebody's got to be traveling.
Well, how are you holding your whiskey?
Shh.
I'm Captain Vinzer Flynn, and you're listening to Shitfaced in Hyperspace. Welcome back to the Bridge of the Blackjack, everyone. Joining us tonight are Cryus, Varen, and Carmine, and we are joined by Mr. Flynnman and Merida Flynn. Welcome.
We were playing Derry and I were watching a video where people are having a competition to see if they could guess the video game character as frames were being open. And one of them was on the second picture, there was a crowbar in somebody's hand. I was like, I know it. Mr. Flynnman.
I was going to say, there's not many games with an actual crowbar in someone's hand.
So apparently Darian hasn't seen some classic movies, and we've been watching them over the past few days. So we've watched The Matrix recently, and last night we watched Aliens.
Oh, cool. You're giving them some real classic cinema education there.
Yeah, he's like, oh, is there a third and fourth? I'm like, no.
There's a sequel, and that's it.
He also asked about other Matrix movies and said, sadly, they never made any.
All right, what should we get into first? All right, we'll get to the Patreon idiots in a bit. What do you got, Varen?
Okay, it came up tonight because of another chat that came up, and it's about Yubnub. It is my biggest. It is one of my biggest pet peeves when they did the just the re-release of Return of the Jedi. They took out the Ewok Yubnub song, which was great. It was, and they replaced it with generic like victory orchestral music. Okay, Ewoks don't have that. Just have the Yubnub song. It's fine. It worked. And why did they have to change it? And it bothers me. And I know Yubnub forever. That's it. That's all I got.
I have to admit, when you first mentioned it, I was thinking Snoo Snoo from Futurama, and it took me a minute to get on the same page as you guys.
See, now I'm just going to have images of Ewoks and Snoo Snoo, and that's not a pretty thought.
This is good. This is traumatizing. I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, see, this is what you're getting into. It's fine.
To think I'd missed that. I guess I should have listened to the other two podcasts.
Well, you've been at our D&D sessions. You know it's all just shit.
It's true. For a long time now.
And here I thought Chernobyl was going to be the scarring topic.
Well, let's talk about Chernobyl.
It was a hard watch, but it was actually really interesting. I don't know if the science was sound for all of it, but I thought that it did a good job of exploring what happened.
I actually did a lot of reading after watching it because I wanted to see like how accurate the science was, and it did a great job with actually telling how it's done and the way they balanced the story with actually explaining how it's done. It was actually very, very well done, very accurate overall. They moved some things around for the dramatic side of things, but the actual science behind what had happened is all there and is what happened.
And they kept a lot of the characters are actually real people or real situations. I mean, they did with the female scientist whose name's escaping me. She was kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of scientists that were working to kind of uncover what happened. But overall, like even the people that were on the bridge right after the accident happened, that legitimately happened, and all of those people, I think they said, didn't make it a week.
The Bridge of Death.
The puppies. I had a very hard time with the puppies. I'm not gonna lie.
Episode 4 was a very difficult. I mean, they were all difficult to watch, but episode 4, especially for the dogs, yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, for me it was the kid in the hospital and the dad trying to pass off the kid, I had to turn it off for a few minutes at that point.
Definitely. Like I had nightmares after I watched the first two because, and I'm not generally a type of person that's affected by stuff they watch like that unless there's clowns, but that's a whole nother story. But like, because it was so seeing people get so sick and so visibly terribly sick with their skin coming off and all of that, that actually, yeah, I had bad dreams. And for me, because I was in high school when this happened, like I'm kind of ashamed of how little I knew, as far as that went and how many people suffered.
But I mean, that was the whole point of Russia, was they were trying to not let anyone know, and they semi-succeeded back then. It's only since then that a bunch of information has come out.
And the Russian government in the show is portrayed, as this, chilling, shadowy thing. There's always a feeling of menace and danger. And every time they had a cabinet meeting, it was a little scary to me, the way they tried to cover everything up. But also with that, the people of Russia in the show, it really shows them this heroic nature, doing it because it must be done. It's like the people were these solid people who were just innately heroic and hardworking, and such a contrast to this evil fucking government.
Part of what happened was, I mean, not to use the phrase comedy of errors because it was something so awful, but it really was a situation where a bunch of things that there had only ever been one time where they thought maybe that if this happened, that everything could go to shit. So, and then that was, I think, redacted, wasn't it? Like the whole report that actually discussed the fact that if the rods were, if it was, what was it, the graphite tips on the rods?
Yeah, there's graphite tips on the rods.
Yeah, so there was only one study that even mentioned that was a possibility, and then they redacted half of that. So while yes, there was absolutely denial because everybody was in a cover your ass mode, I think that they genuinely just didn't think that it was possible. I don't think they were given the information.
Yeah, and that was a lot of it because the fallout from Chernobyl, they actually credit it as being the major motivation for the entire fall of actually Soviet Russia, because it was the thing of, yeah, everything was always redacted and everything was about secrets. Always everything was a secret. And it was look what your secrets did. Because if they had the right information, this wouldn't have happened. And so it was kind of, the people kind of had enough, and it was kind of a proving moment of, hey, we can't have all these secrets because we're actually going to hurt ourselves in the end.
Well, the thing that strikes me is that you talk about having the right information. Those two guys, when they went back in episode 5 and replayed the night with the trial, those two guys, they kind of knew it was wrong, but it's like you say, the scary Russian government, they had to do it, even though they were scared shitless the whole time. Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Well, I think in their case, like, had they refused, they probably would have been imprisoned or shot.
Exactly.
I don't think
the episode 5 trial, where they went back and recapped everything, that might have been my favorite one, because I really wanted to see more about what went on step by step that night. And in episode 5, we got back and got to see that stuff. And couldn't you just listen to Jared Harris give a lecture about anything? Like, I learned more about nuclear reactors and physics and shit in his explanation scene than I ever have in my life.
Seriously, though. And it was like the best. I like the fact that they let everything happen, and then at the end they went, all right, so you've seen the aftermath. Here's what went wrong.
Episode 5 really put us in the room.
I mean, from a storytelling perspective, it let us be basically a citizen of the Soviet Union. Of all they knew was the explosion happened in the aftermath, and it wasn't till all the investigation happened and the trial happened that they found out the details. So you were basically along for the ride as a basic citizen.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Okay, so on our Patreon, the gold level members have the right to pitch us a debate or topic that we have to talk about on the podcast. Two people this week have exercised that right, so let's get to them. The first is my sister, the illegitimate child of David Bowie, who says, I've got one share of Planet Kajigger, and I vote we talk about my cats and how they eat my change. And the second is Ragnarok Flynn, who's with us via HollowNet chat tonight. Topic: how awesome is Firefly, though? Thoughts on season 2? They are making a season 2, I assume, after all this time, right? I mean, makes sense. Come here, Ragnarok. Come here! Come here! Alright, can I bitch about Spider-Man now?
Of course you can.
Ooh.
I've been waiting weeks for this.
Okay. I liked the movie a lot, but I have a few problems with it.
Okay.
For instance,
How about Tony Stark giving basically a 16-year-old idiot the nuclear option and, not Pepper or Rhodey or anybody qualified to have it? And why the fuck did he have the ability to transfer it to another person?
Because even if he had given it to Peter, I feel like he would have been like, okay, Happy, you're going to give this to Peter when he's an adult.
Yeah.
Or put in the babysitting program on it.
I honestly, right? It's like he just handed a kid a gun.
No, he handed a kid a howitzer.
Okay, what else? I liked MJ more in this movie. She was used better. I didn't find her very likable in the first one. The dialogue for me was a little stilted, but I know it's supposed to be awkward teenagers, so I gotta let that one slide.
Yeah, she was definitely used a lot better though, and even I forget the name of his friend,
Ned.
his best
Ned.
friend, but
I think it's Ned.
yes, it is Ned. They were used great. I think they used their secondary characters quite well in comparison to the first one.
The doofus teachers got old for me real fast.
so old because seriously, they would not. Two teachers with that many kids on a trip to Europe anyway would just not.
I also enjoyed how they at least included a few lines to remind the audience that Peter Parker is supposed to be really smart.
Yeah, he was on an academic team that, we kind of saw it in the first movie that he was smart. I did like how they had Fury in there to maneuver things for him. It's like, we need you to go here. I'm not doing that. I'm sticking with my school. All right, fine. That's the way you're going to be. And then Fury moves the whole school.
See, that was another thing that kind of bugged me about the movie is the Fury thing and then the Skrull thing, okay? A big reveal at the end doesn't make sense if you don't know what the fuck the reveal is about. I mean, I know they're going to set stuff up and reveal it later, but it kind of lacked a punch because, okay, these guys are Skrulls, Fury's off on the ship. We don't know what's going on there, so it just kind of loses, I don't know, any impact for me. It's like, what was the point? Do we have to wait 10 years to hear the point?
It's sort of like the Thanos thing at the end of one of the movies where everybody's like, who the fuck's that? And everybody that knows Thanos is like, oh my God, it's fucking Thanos. This is going to be awesome. That was pretty much the introduction of Sword.
Right. But I mean, in general, even a non-hardcore Marvel fan can really quickly Google Thanos, kind of figure out what he's about. Like the sword thing is much, I know they got to reach for new material, but the sword thing it's so much more obscure. You know what I mean? I don't know. It lacked a punch for me.
Better question is, why on earth would Nick Fury trust the Skrulls to be him?
Good question.
I got the impression that they didn't actually have permission to do that.
The other question it brings up is, how long has Fury been gone? Was Fury the guy at the funeral?
The thing is, though, right, is Fury was snapped, wasn't he? So
Yes.
Was he?
Yeah, but also I don't think the Skrulls came back to Earth until Captain Marvel came back to Earth, which was after the snap.
Now, see, we're going to have to wait because the next movie is Black Widow, which is going to be a prequel.
That movie is long overdue.
Yeah, seriously.
If I do not get all kinds of Natasha being trained to be a killing machine, I am going to be very, very disappointed.
They'd better.
Oh, I loved seeing Jay Jonah come back. That was awesome.
Unexpected for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No, that was probably that was definitely a like, oh, it's perfect because nobody else could do that role. Like he was so good at it. I'm like, that's the one thing from the other Spider-Man movies that I'm like, they're really dated, but man, he's awesome as J. Jonah Jameson.
I like that they portrayed him. They made him updated instead of banging on the desk at the newspaper office. He's like a Alex Jones Infowars kind of thing, right?
Get me YouTube videos of Spider-Man.
Yeah. So Mysterio as a villain, they actually made him pretty cool. The technical way they did it worked for me, and the overall evil plan. It never would have worked though if it'd been done pre-snap, because post-snap everyone knows what Thanos is and aliens and stuff like that, so they'd believe anything. So okay, I'm willing to let his crazy bullshit scheme, work for me for a story. What I didn't really like was the painfully expositional way he explained his evil plan at the bar scene. I do like the way that all these former Stark employees were involved. That was pretty cool, including the guy like right from the first movie Stain was yelling at. But just the way he was toasting everybody and monologuing.
If anybody was going to do that, it would be Mysterio.
I'll grant you that, yeah.
He's the one villain I could see doing the monologuing. That was what I was kind of hoping for with Mysterio. Was when they mentioned the multiverse, I was kind of hoping like, okay, we're going to see a different Mysterio. He's going to actually be a good guy this time around. I was hoping for that, while at the same time waiting for the stab in the back.
Soon as they mentioned multiverse in the trailers, I was right from the get. I was like, bullshit.
So my thing with this movie is, while I realized that it was like a wrap up the Phase 3, and like, oh my god, this movie is half about, Iron Man, Tony Stark's gone, oh my god, the world is sad, yada, yada, yada. I really want the next Spider-Man movie, whenever it is, to have a villain that is not somebody who Tony Stark pissed off, and Peter has to pick up and fix it.
This movie should not have been the last movie of the phase. It should have been the first of the new one.
I think it was trying to do both at once, and I think that's where it kind of fell short a bit for me. Of Endgame was the big wrap up and all that, and this was, for me, going into it expecting it to be the step off to the new, but it was one foot in both halves, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, I think this is probably one of the best Spider-Man movies they've made, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it.
Despite all my bitching, I absolutely loved it. Oh, make sure you ask Raina, because she watched my face when he started building the suit, and Happy's like, I got the music, and Back in Black starts playing, and I get all happy, and then he goes, oh, I love Led Zeppelin, and my face went full Phoenix scowl in a split second.
I have to admit, I've been waiting for you to have a reaction to that for quite some time.
Oh, well, you can picture the face I made.
Oh, I totally had pictured the face you made.
Raina was laughing her head off. She got a good look at that.
Well, it's a classic Peter Parker thing. Like he's done them in every single movie he's been in so far.
Yeah. That was good.
Remember that really old movie?
Remember he's young, right? I mean, that's how they underline it. I really liked the fact in this that how they dealt with people who survived the snap versus people who came back.
So good.
And difference and stuff. Like, I liked the fact that, because if you think like there were people that are stuck at 16 and who should be 21, and
Flash sneaking a drink on the plane.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He's really 16. Yeah.
Well, I do enjoy they kind of address that with the Aunt May doing her charity raising thing of all these people that suddenly blip back 5 years into the apartments and places they used to live. And it's like, holy fuck, that's a whole economical situation that would have to get dealt with.
So what about, someone brought this up as a sick joke. Like, what about people who are pregnant and their baby got blipped away, and then 5 years later, here's your baby back?
The one that always interested me was like, okay, what about like people in an airplane?
Oh God, yeah.
And the pilot that was
Specifically,
blipped and the passengers weren't?
The pilot was blipped and the passengers weren't, and the plane crashed, or you were blipped back in the air, because that's where you were when you blipped.
Oh dear.
Ooh.
And there's no plane, yeah.
Plane, like,
Because they did show that like planes crashed, cars crashed because people blipped in the middle of driving
Yeah.
and flying and all that. So there were definitely deaths because of that.
All right, Ragnarok Flynn in chat says, what if you were having sex with someone when you blipped, and then but 5 years later, you reappeared on top of your wife and her new boyfriend. Well, I would imagine that would really surprise the boyfriend.
Or even people who are just in your apartment. Man, we could talk about the blip all night, like the social, political, economic, agricultural impacts, environmental impacts of literally half of all life on Earth being gone.
So after Infinity War came out, they had that website to see if you got snapped or not. I got snapped. Did anybody else?
Yeah, I think I did too.
I believe I did not get snapped.
Ragnarok got snapped.
Man, who did that leave in charge of the Flynns?
You.
No, I got snapped.
Oh God,
Yeah,
we're
Phoenix.
fucked. We're fucked.
Ragnarok really is on his sex kick right now.
Yeah,
Oh
Ragnarok's
God.
in chat typing all kinds of filthy things. I think I would have rather have been snapped, because then you would have passed those 5 years instantly and not have to go through all the painful terribleness. You know what I realized the other day, speaking of Endgame, is that Tony, he's a dad in Endgame, and his last words were, "I am Iron Man." He ended his whole thing on a dad joke. Thanos says, "I am inevitable. Hi, inevitable. I'm Iron Man." Snap.
Yeah.
Ah, nice. Never thought of that.
Oh, I never thought about it that way. That is good.
So Ragnarok in the chat said ripples of energy from the use of the stones creates the mutants. Duh. So I agree with that. That's how they can play it off, is like the gamma radiation from the snap causes a bunch of mutations.
And that could work. My only thing about that is that there's the younger mutants like Cyclops and all those guys, but Professor X and Magneto are supposed to have been mutants for years. You know what I mean?
The Time Stone could have sent the gamma radiation back through time as well.
Yeah, there could have been mutants back then, and maybe the gauntlet energy accelerates it. Who knows?
I don't know. I am a big fan of the whole fact that humanity is just beginning to mutate all on its own. And because then we get that whole people are racist assholes storyline that is so important with the mutants.
X-Men's more topical than ever.
So very much so.
I think what would have been cool, but they probably didn't have time between the finishing of Spider-Man and when they bought Fox, was for Happy to have a throwaway line in Homecoming that the old Avengers Tower was bought by some guy named Baxter.
You mean Richards?
Yes, sorry.
I like that, actually. That's good.
The one thing I'm kind of sad about is the way they've set up Spider-Man is that some of my favorite Spider-Man stories were from the 90s cartoon were the crossover episodes, like where Spider-Man goes to like the Xavier Mansion and I think he meets up with the Fantastic Four at some point. I doubt we're going to get any of that type of stuff.
See, I think you've got to get some, because if I'm getting the Fantastic Four, then I'm getting the Silver Surfer. And you know what that means.
Another big bad. The big bad.
The bigger, the biggest.
Maybe we'll get to see him this time. Although I have to admit, the old Fantastic Four movies, I really liked them. At the time, they were what we had. They were fun. I liked them.
I also have to chip in that I enjoyed the first two Fantastic Four movies that we got. They were good. They were enjoyable to watch.
So the MCU is awesome, and we all love it. But the early 2000s Marvel movies do have a special place in my heart.
Oh man, when we first got that first X-Men movie, I was blown away.
That's what I was going to say. My man, watching that first X movie, like that was what did it for me. For hey, comics can be good damn movies.
That first Wolverine reveal, I was like, holy shit, they got it right.
If only they had gotten Sabretooth right.
Well, we can't have everything.
He's the Sabretooth in, I know a lot of people didn't like the movie, but Wolverine Origins, Sabretooth was fucking brilliant in that. Okay, that's it for us this week. No podcast next week because the Flynn's are going on vacation to Mandalore, and anyone who survives will be back the week after that. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Clan Flynn, and if you want to support our podcast, join us on patreon.com/VincerFlynn. Stay fresh, cheese bags.